I once had a friend named Jason. Jason was my schoolmate from first year high school. However, we wouldn't become friends until second year high school. By chance, he was separated from his friend group in first year completely and ended up being classmates with me. While I would like to say that I took this chance to befriend him, knowing what kind of person I am, he was probably the one who befriended me. He was a video game nerd who was good at mathematics and chess and was kind of socially awkward. A description that could just as easily apply to me. Since we shared a lot of the same interests, becoming good friends seemed inevitable. In third year high school, he was reunited with his original group of friends, and I became friends with them as well through Jason. Most of our friendship was spent talking about video games. He would tell me about clutch Blinkstalker plays in StarCraft 2, and I would tell him about the adventures of a furry pyromaniac in a scrapyard mech in League of Legends. Neither of us played the other game, but that didn't matter. We just listened to each other's experiences and gave comments about it. Eventually, he started playing League of Legends as well, and I got into some of the games that he played. While playing games, he hardly ever got mad, which is more than I can say for our other friends, and even for myself. It's as if he recognized that the people he was playing with were still human beings, even if he couldn't physically see them. While on the surface, Jason was a lot like me. He was different in much deeper ways. Jason, though being socially awkward, took charge when he was with his group of friends. He would make plans and make sure that people were happy. He would even call me out when I would become unreasonable. Jason was a leader. Jason had dyslexia. The way he described this was that letters in words would constantly bounce around, and that he needed to concentrate really hard to see the actual word. One day, a teacher asked him to read something to the class. Of course, he struggled with this, so our classmates accused the teacher of bullying him. Jason disagreed, however. He wanted to be treated the same as everyone else. He could have easily played the victim. I know I would have. But instead, he stood by his principles. Jason was strong. But Jason's greatest strength, his greatest trait, was just how friendly he was, despite being socially awkward. He had a story involving each of his friends. Jason would recount how the first friend he made in school was because he saw him eating spaghetti during break. He would tell stories showing the deep friendship that the two best friends had. He remembered memorable moments from the games that he played with his friends. Before I met Jason, I never left the house to hang out with friends. This changed one day during a Saturday activity in school. Jason had made plans to go to a computer shop with his friends. I was on my way home when Jason invited me to come along. I ended up having so much fun that I suddenly saw value in leaving the house. Fast forward a year later, and I found myself on a 2-day outing with Jason and another one of our friends. Jason gave me the opportunity to socialize more deeply with friends, and ultimately, it made me want to become just like him. I wanted to be able to give friends the opportunity to socialize in the same way that he gave that opportunity to me. When we went off to college, I moved to a city 3 hours away, making it much harder to see my friends in high school. From time to time, I would visit my friends and we would spend hours catching up in McDonald's. Mostly, however, we would catch up in League. After our games, we would talk about the changes in our lives and our anxieties. Jason would talk about how most of his friends ended up being girls, which I thought was pretty impressive at the time. One time, after our games, Jason told me about how he liked a girl in school, and he felt anxious to approach her. I egged him on to pursue it. Later that week, Jason got into an accident. I saw a friend post about it, so I immediately went to his Facebook profile. His profile picture was still the picture we took from the outing we had back in high school. When I looked at his wall, I saw something that I didn't even realize was possible. Jason was dead. I couldn't believe that his life was cut short. Jason, the person who had shown me the value of socializing. Jason, the person who just wanted to be treated equally and fairly. Jason, someone who still had his whole life to live. Ended. It destroyed my faith in life. His death felt so meaningless. I still remember going to his wake and looking at his corpse, hoping that this wasn't real. But there he was. I'm sure it was even harder for his family. For a while, I just waded through life. Everything felt so hollow. The specter of death sucked all of the color and meaning out of life. One night, I dreamt that I was in front of a chapel. I walked in and sat in one of the pews and just waited. Later, I heard footsteps coming my way, but I just ignored it. I kept looking hopelessly at the crucifix above the altar. The footsteps came beside me, and I felt someone had sat next to me. I turned, and I saw Jason, even though I knew he was dead. I started talking with him about all the pain I couldn't explain. I talked about the hollowness that all my actions made me feel, and the bitterness over the past. Jason mostly kept quiet, only interjecting here and there, until finally he asked me to stop. Jason just looked at me and softly said, "You didn't think I'd leave you now." I suddenly felt calm. I hugged him and walked out of the chapel together. When I woke up, all of the color in life slowly started to come back. I didn't quite understand the dream at the time. I had to think it over quite a bit. Years later, I heard a song written by Louis Tomlinson that perfectly describes what I heard. Louis wrote a song for his deceased mother called Two of Us. Louis sings about how his mother, though dead, lived on through him. All of his actions were an extension of his mother's life. Though life is temporary and oh so fragile, the actions that we take can change the lives of others. Jason changed my life. Every now and then, I still talk with Jason in my dreams. Usually it's when I'm at my lower points. And in my low points, I know that I need to push through. Though Jason is no longer physically with me, his actions have left a permanent picture in my soul. And I'll justify his life by living the best of mine, with one life for the two of us.